Before Ted Bundy became one of the most infamous serial killers in American history, before the trials, before the escapes, before the confessions, there was an 8-year-old girl in Tacoma, Washington, who went to sleep inside her family home and was never seen again. Her name was Ann Marie Burr. She was wearing a little blue nightgown. Her family was inside the house. Her siblings were sleeping nearby. Her parents were just rooms away. But by morning, Ann was gone. The front door was open. A window had been pushed wider. A bench had been moved beneath it. And outside, in the rain-soaked ground, investigators found a faint shoe print. For decades, people have asked the same question. Was Ann taken by a stranger? Was it someone from the neighborhood? Or was this the first dark sign of a boy who would later grow into a monster? This is the unsolved disappearance of Ann Marie Burr. And the most disturbing part is not just that she vanished. It is that someone may have been watching the house before she disappeared. On the morning of August 31st, 1961, Tacoma, Washington was waking up after a rough night. There had been rain, wind, a storm strong enough to knock out power in parts of the city. Inside one family home on North 14th Street, Beverly Burr woke up expecting an ordinary morning. The kind of morning mothers know well. Children sleeping, breakfast to prepare, school getting closer, the last days of summer quietly ending. But when Beverly checked on her children, something was wrong. Her 8-year-old daughter Ann Marie was not in her bed. At first, this may not have felt like horror. Maybe Ann had gone downstairs. Maybe she was in the bathroom. Maybe she had woken early and was somewhere in the house. But within moments, Beverly saw things that turned confusion into panic. The front door was open. A living room window had been opened wider than it had been the night before. Outside that window, a garden bench had been moved into place, almost like someone had used it to climb inside. Ann Marie Burr had disappeared from her own home. No scream, no struggle, no goodbye, just an empty bed, and a family that would spend the rest of their lives searching for answers. Ann Marie Burr was only 8 years old. She was the oldest child in the Burr family, a little girl described as bright, independent, artistic, and responsible. She was about to start the 3rd grade at Grant Elementary School. She took piano lessons. She walked to school on her own. She was the kind of child who was trusted because she had earned that trust. Ann was not a troubled child. She was not known for running away. She had no reason to leave her family home in the middle of the night. Her family lived in Tacoma, Washington, in a quiet North End neighborhood. It was the kind of area where children played outside, neighbors knew one another, and families believed that danger was something that happened somewhere else, not inside your house, not while your children were asleep, not while the parents were home. But in the days before Ann vanished, there were strange details. Neighbors had reportedly noticed someone around the area, someone looking into yards, someone who did not belong. And Ann's own parents had heard noises outside at night before the disappearance. That detail matters, because when a child disappears from a locked home, the first question is always, was this random? Or had someone been watching? Or had someone been watching? August 30th, 1961, was the Wednesday before Labor Day weekend. For Ann and her siblings, summer was almost over. School was coming. The family had spent the day like many families do at the end of summer, preparing, organizing, letting the children enjoy the last bit of freedom before routine returned. That night, the Burr children settled down to sleep. Some of the children were sleeping in the basement. Ann was upstairs. Her parents, Beverly and Donald Burr, locked up the house before bed. The front door was locked and chained. One small living room window was left slightly open, because wires from the TV antenna ran through it. That detail would later become one of the most important parts of the entire case, because by morning, that same window would be open wider. And outside it, investigators would find signs that someone may have entered the house. During the night, the family dog barked, but there was a storm, rain, wind, noise. So Ann's parents thought the dog was reacting to the weather. That decision would haunt the case forever. Because looking back, the barking may not have been about the storm. It may have been about a person, someone near the house, someone close enough to get inside. At some point during that night, Ann was still alive and still in the home. Then, sometime before morning, she disappeared, and nobody heard enough to stop it. When Beverly Burr woke early the next morning, she did what mothers do. She checked on her children. But Ann's bed was empty. At first, Beverly searched the house. Then she saw the open door. The front door that had been locked and chained was now open. That alone was terrifying. But then came the window. The living room window, the one that had been left open only a little, was now open wider. Outside, a garden bench had been moved beneath it. This was not normal. A child sneaking out would not need to move a bench beneath a window from outside. A child leaving willingly would likely use the door. But if someone wanted to enter quietly, if someone knew a window was already slightly open, if someone needed a way inside without breaking glass, that bench becomes important. Near the window, investigators found a faint footprint. The rain had distorted it, but it was believed to be from a small sneaker, possibly the size a teenager or smaller adult might wear. There was no clear sign of a struggle in Ann's bedroom. Her siblings were not taken. Her parents were not attacked. Only Ann was gone. That tells us something chilling. Whoever took Ann either knew exactly what they wanted or got very lucky in a house full of sleeping people. And both possibilities are terrifying. Once police were called, the search began quickly. Neighbors were questioned. The area was searched. Authorities looked through streets, yards, wooded areas, ditches, and nearby spaces where a child might have wandered, or where someone might have hidden evidence. But there was no Ann, no body, no confirmed witness, no clear ransom demand, no clear ransom demand. No reliable sighting, nothing that could bring her home. In the early stages, there was still hope. Maybe she had wandered away. Maybe someone would spot her. Maybe she was alive somewhere nearby. But every hour that passed made the case darker. When a child vanishes from inside a home, time becomes cruel. Every minute matters. Every delay matters. Every wrong lead pulls investigators further away from the truth. And Ann's case had many leads, but none of them solved it. There were people questioned. There were suspects considered. There were strange tips. There were claims from people who said they knew what happened. But again and again, the leads faded. The case became a maze with no exit. And while the Burr family was trying to survive the unbearable, one question kept growing. Who could have entered that home, taken a little girl, and disappeared into the night without leaving enough evidence behind? To understand why this case stayed alive in people's minds, you have to understand the neighborhood. The Burr home was not isolated. It was not a lonely farmhouse miles away from help. It was in a residential part of Tacoma. There were neighbors. Children played outside. Families moved through familiar streets. And that is what makes the case feel so invasive. Because Ann was not taken while walking alone on a dark road. She was not taken from a distant park. She vanished from her bedroom. That changes the fear. It means someone crossed a boundary most people think of as sacred. The home. The one place a child is supposed to be safe. Police looked at people in the area. They considered whether Ann may have known her abductor. That theory made sense. If there was no scream, maybe she recognized the person. If the person moved through the house without waking everyone, maybe they had some confidence. If only Ann was taken, maybe she had been targeted. But there was another possibility. Maybe she was asleep. Maybe the abductor moved quickly. Maybe the storm covered the sounds. Maybe the family dog barked, but the rain disguised the warning. In true crime, we often search for one perfect explanation. But in Ann's case, every explanation opens another question. The evidence in the case sounds important. An open window, a moved bench, a faint shoe print, possible trace material. But evidence is only powerful if it can identify someone. In 1961, forensic science was not what it is today. There were no modern DNA databases, no home security cameras, no doorbell footage, no cell phone pings, no digital trail. A person could move through a neighborhood and vanish in a way that is almost impossible today. The storm also hurt the investigation. Rain can damage footprints. It can wash away traces. It can blur the path someone took. So, even though investigators had signs of an entry point, they did not have enough to say who entered. That is one of the cruelest parts of the case. The house seemed to tell a story, but it did not name the person. And without that name, Ann's family was left with theories. Theories about strangers. Theories about neighbors. Theories about drifters. And eventually, the theory that would make Ann's case known far beyond Tacoma. Ted Bundy. There is a detail in this case that stays with me. The dog barked. In the moment, it probably sounded like nothing. A stormy night, a nervous animal, a normal family sound. But after Ann disappeared, that bark became something else. A possible warning. A moment that, in hindsight, feels like the house itself trying to speak. Someone may have been outside. Someone may have already been near the window. Someone may have been preparing to enter, and nobody knew. By morning, the little girl was gone. For more than 6 decades, Ann Marie Burr's case has remained unsolved. No confirmed body, no confirmed killer, no final answer, just an open door, an open window, a faint footprint in the rain, and a question that still hangs over Tacoma. Who took Ann Marie Burr? Was it a stranger? Was it someone nearby? Was it a teenage boy who would later become one of America's most infamous killers? Or was the truth even closer than anyone wanted to believe? Until evidence proves the answer, Ann's story remains unfinished. And somewhere inside that unfinished story is a little girl who went to bed one night and vanished before morning. Ann Marie Burr was 8 years old when she disappeared. She should not be remembered only as a possible victim of Ted Bundy. She should be remembered as Ann, a daughter, a sister, a child with a life that mattered. If anyone watching knows something, even something that seems small, cases like this prove that small details can matter. A memory, a story once overheard, a name, a place, a detail passed down in a family. Sometimes, the truth survives in fragments. And sometimes, after decades of silence, one fragment is enough to bring a child home. Rest in peace, Ann Marie Burr, and may the truth still find its way into the light.